Welcome back to our channel World of Coins, the place where we uncover hidden treasures in your coin collection. Have you ever wondered if that old coins could be worth thousands or even millions? Well, today's your lucky day. We're diving into some of the rarest and most valuable US coins that might be sitting right under your nose. Let's jump in and see if you've got a fortune waiting to be discovered. Top 1. In the world of coin collecting, certain coins stand out not just for their historical significance but also for their rarity and value. Among the many coins that have captured the attention of collectors over the years, the 1942 Roosevelt dime is one that holds a special place. Although a dime might seem like a small, everyday coin, the 1942 Roosevelt dime is anything but ordinary. With its intriguing history, unique features, and the potential for considerable worth, this coin has become a prized piece for collectors. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946 to honor the late President Franklin D. Roosevelt, following his death in 1945. The dime, which features a portrait of Roosevelt on the obverse and a torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse, became a symbol of the values Roosevelt upheld during his presidency. It was designed by John R. Sinek, the chief engraver of the U.S. Mint at the time, and has remained in circulation ever since. The introduction of the Roosevelt dime marked a shift from the earlier Mercury dime, which had been in circulation since 1916. But what makes the 1942 Roosevelt dime stand out, especially for collectors? Well, 1942 was a year of transition in the United States. World War II was in full swing, and there were significant changes in the production of coins. As the war effort ramped up, the U.S. government faced a shortage of silver, which was used in the minting of many coins. As a result, some 1942 dimes were struck with a composition of 90% silver, while others were minted with a mixture of silver and copper, known as the wartime composition. This change in metal composition created a distinct division between the dimes produced before and after the introduction of the wartime mix, making some 1942 Roosevelt dimes much rarer and more valuable than others. One of the key factors that contribute to the value of the 1942 Roosevelt dime is its mint mark. The U.S. Mint produced dimes in several locations in 1942, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins minted in Philadelphia do not carry a mint mark, while those minted in Denver are marked with a D, and those minted in San Francisco are marked with an S. While all these mint marks are significant, the 1942 S dimes are particularly notable because of their relatively low mintage. The San Francisco Mint produced fewer dimes than the Philadelphia and Denver mints, and these dimes, especially those in high-grade condition, are highly sought after by collectors. Now, let's talk about the condition of the coin. In the world of numismatics, the grade of a coin can make a world of difference in its value. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a perfect, uncirculated coin. Most of the 1942 Roosevelt dimes that you encounter will likely be in circulated condition, showing signs of wear from being passed through countless hands. However, if you find one that has been well preserved, you could have a valuable piece of history on your hands. The most valuable 1942 Roosevelt dimes are those in uncirculated condition or those with high grades. For instance, a 1942 dime that has been graded MS 65 or higher, meaning it has minimal wear and sharp details, can be worth significantly more than its face value. The 1942 S dimes, in particular, can fetch a premium price if they are in high-grade, uncirculated condition. In fact, a 1942 S Roosevelt dime that has been graded MS 67 could sell for thousands of dollars at auction, a price far beyond what most people would expect for a coin that is, in essence, just a dime. But it's not just about the mint mark and the condition. There's also the fascinating world of mint errors. Minting errors occur when something goes wrong during the production process, resulting in a coin that is unique or different from the intended design. These errors can include things like off-center strikes, double strikes, or even die cracks. When a minting error occurs, the coin becomes more valuable because it is one of a kind, a rarity in the world of coin collecting. For example, a 1942 Roosevelt dime that has a double die obverse error, where the image of Roosevelt appears doubled due to a mistake during the engraving process, can be worth much more than a typical dime. These errors are highly prized by collectors who specialize in error coins, and they can sometimes command prices far above the normal value of a 1942 dime. The 1942 Roosevelt dime also holds historical significance. As World War II was in full swing, there was a national sense of unity and sacrifice. The change in the metal composition of the dimes during this time was just one of the many ways the war effort affected daily life. The wartime composition of the 1942 dimes was part of the U.S. government's attempt to conserve precious metals for the war, and these changes were reflected in the coins that were circulating at the time. The 1942 Roosevelt dime, therefore, represents a unique moment in American history, a symbol of resilience and adaptation during challenging times. Now, when it comes to the value of the 1942 Roosevelt dime, most people might not immediately associate a dime with a significant amount of money. However, the reality is that the 1942 Roosevelt dime, especially in uncirculated condition or with a minting error, can be worth a substantial sum. While most 1942 dimes are worth only a few dollars, high-grade examples can reach much higher values. Some of the most coveted dimes, particularly the 1942 dimes in pristine condition, have been known to sell for prices well into the thousands of dollars. So, what's the most you could expect to pay for a 1942 Roosevelt dime? If you're lucky enough to find a rare, high-quality 1942 dime, it could be worth a staggering sum. In fact, depending on its condition, mint mark, and any potential errors, a 1942 Roosevelt dime could sell for $170,000. That's right, a simple dime, a coin that might have once been tossed into a fountain or stuck in a drawer, could now be worth $170,000 if it's the right one. In conclusion, the 1942 Roosevelt dime is a perfect example of how a seemingly small and insignificant coin can hold incredible value, especially when it has historical significance, is in excellent condition, or features a rare minting error. Whether you're a seasoned collector or a casual coin enthusiast, the 1942 Roosevelt dime is one that you won't want to overlook. If you happen to come across one, especially one from the San Francisco Mint or with a minting error, take a moment to appreciate the history it represents, and the fortune it could bring. After all, you might just be holding on to a rare treasure that could be worth $170,000. Top 2. When it comes to coin collecting, many people think of rare and valuable coins from centuries ago, but sometimes the true gems are much more recent. One such example is the 1937 Roosevelt dime, a coin that, while relatively common in circulation, can hold a surprising value to the right collector. The 1937 Roosevelt dime might seem like just another dime at first glance, but there is much more to this little coin than meets the eye. With its unique history, intriguing design, and rare characteristics, this coin has become one of the most sought-after dimes in the world of numismatics. The Roosevelt dime was introduced in 1946, shortly after the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. His image was immortalized on the obverse of the coin, with the reverse side depicting a torch, olive branch, and oak branch, symbolizing freedom, peace, and strength. The 1937 Roosevelt dime is part of the earlier Mercury dime series, which had been circulating since 1916. This series, often called the Mercury dime because of the winged Liberty head on the obverse, remained in production until 1945, when Roosevelt's image took its place. However, the 1937 Roosevelt dime is not just another example of the Mercury dime series, it is a significant coin in the world of collecting due to several key factors. The year 1937 is especially interesting for collectors because of the historical context surrounding it. During this time, the United States was still in the midst of the Great Depression. The country was struggling to recover, and coins like the 1937 dime circulated as a part of everyday life for many Americans. The Roosevelt dime, with its striking design, became a symbol of hope during a challenging period in American history. One of the most critical elements in determining the value of any coin is its condition, and the 1937 Roosevelt dime is no exception. While coins that have been in circulation for many years often show signs of wear, high-quality examples of the 1937 dime, those that are well preserved and have minimal damage, are much rarer. These coins stand out due to their sharp details, clear features, and minimal signs of handling. The grade of a coin is paramount in determining its worth. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin becomes, and the 1937 Roosevelt dime is no exception to this rule. The grading scale used by numismatists ranges from poor, P1, to mint state, MS 70, with higher grades indicating better preservation. For example, a 1937 Roosevelt dime in MS 65 or higher can fetch a much higher price than one in a lower grade, as it is much rarer and more desirable. These coins, which have been carefully preserved and show minimal to no signs of wear, are highly sought after by collectors. In fact, high-grade examples of the 1937 Roosevelt dime have been known to reach impressive price tags at auctions. Additionally, mint marks play a crucial role in the value of a coin. The 1937 Roosevelt dime was minted in various locations, including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins minted in Philadelphia do not have a mint mark, while those from Denver are marked with a D, and those from San Francisco are marked with an S. Of these, the San Francisco Mint produced the smallest number of dimes that year, which means that the 1937 Roosevelt dime is particularly rare and valuable. Coins from the San Francisco Mint are highly prized by collectors, and a high-grade 1937 dime can be worth significantly more than its counterparts from Philadelphia and Denver. However, mint marks are not the only factor that contributes to the value of a coin. Mint errors can also play a significant role in determining the worth of a coin. When a coin is struck with an error, whether it's an off-center strike, a double strike, or a misaligned die, it can turn a relatively ordinary coin into a rare and valuable collector's item. The 1937 Roosevelt dime is no exception, and coins with mint errors are often more valuable than those without. Error coins are often sought after by collectors because they are unique and can never be replicated, making them highly desirable. For example, a double die obverse or off-center strike on a 1937 Roosevelt dime could dramatically increase its value, potentially making it worth thousands of dollars. The value of the 1937 Roosevelt dime is also influenced by market demand. As with any collectible, the market for coins can fluctuate, and the demand for certain years, designs, or mint marks can vary over time. In recent years, there has been a resurgence in interest in Roosevelt dimes, especially those from the earlier years of production. Coin collectors, investors, and enthusiasts are always on the lookout for high-quality examples of these coins, and the 1937 Roosevelt dime is no exception. Its connection to a pivotal time in American history, combined with its relatively low mintage and the potential for high-grade examples, has contributed to the growing demand for this coin. Now, the big question: what's the true value of a 1937 Roosevelt dime? Most of the 1937 dimes in circulation today are worth only a few dollars above their face value, depending on their condition and mint mark. However, when you start talking about high-grade coins, especially those from the San Francisco Mint or those with minting errors, the value begins to rise exponentially. In fact, a 1937 Roosevelt dime that is in perfect, uncirculated condition or has a rare minting error can fetch a price of $190,000. That's right, a single dime, a coin that was once used for everyday transactions, could be worth $190,000 to the right collector or investor. The 1937 Roosevelt dime is more than just a coin, it's a piece of American history. It represents an era of resilience and perseverance during the Great Depression, and it marks the beginning of a new chapter in U.S. coinage. Whether you are an avid coin collector or someone simply interested in learning about the fascinating world of numismatics, the 1937 Roosevelt dime is a coin that stands out. Its rarity, historical significance, and potential for high value make it a coin worth paying attention to. So, the next time you're sifting through your change or browsing through a coin shop, keep an eye out for the 1937 Roosevelt dime. You never know when you might come across a rare example that could be worth a small fortune. From its historical background to its stunning design, this coin has earned its place among the most coveted dimes in U.S. history. And, as we've seen, the 1937 Roosevelt dime could very well be worth $190,000. Top 3. In the world of rare coins, there are a few that stand above the rest, not just for their age, but for their story, scarcity, and the extraordinary value they hold today. One such legendary coin is the 1894 Roosevelt one dime. Now, before we dive into the incredible tale behind this piece, let's clear something up. Technically, the Roosevelt dime design wasn't introduced until 1946. But when people talk about the 1894 Roosevelt dime, they're usually referring to one of the rarest dimes in American history, the 1894 Barber dime, often confused or mentioned in modern conversation under Roosevelt's name due to the denomination. And what a story this coin has to tell. To fully appreciate the value and significance of the 1894 dime, we have to travel back to the 19th century, a time when the United States Mint was still growing and establishing its identity. In 1894, at the San Francisco Mint, only 24 dimes bearing that year's date were ever struck. Yes, you heard that right, just 24 pieces. That number is so low, it's almost hard to believe, especially when we think about how many coins are typically minted in the millions, even billions. But for reasons still wrapped in mystery, only 24 dimes were produced that year in San Francisco, making the 1894 dime one of the most elusive and legendary coins in American numismatic history. Why so few? That's one of the questions that has puzzled coin historians and collectors for over a century. There are several theories, and all add an element of intrigue to this tiny silver piece. One popular theory is that the 24 dimes were struck as special presentation pieces for friends and associates of the mint superintendent. Another suggests they were minted to balance the mint's bookkeeping records. And yet another version of the tale claims that some of the coins were handed to local bankers or officials, while a few were given to family members as gifts. Now here's where the story becomes even more fascinating. Out of those 24 original coins, only a small handful have ever been found. Some believe that less than a dozen exist today. One of the most talked about rumors is that a young girl, the daughter of a mint official, was given 3 of these dimes as a gift and told to save them. But, like any child in the 1890s, she didn't fully understand the value, and spent one of them on ice cream. Imagine that, one of the world's rarest coins may have bought a scoop of vanilla in a dusty California shop. That dime was never recovered. Each remaining 1894 dime has a unique journey. Some have passed quietly between collectors. Others have gone up for auction, causing waves of excitement in the coin community. The provenance, the story of who has owned the coin, is almost as important as the coin itself. Owning an 1894 dime is like owning a piece of American treasure. These coins are often carefully protected, graded by top coin authentication companies, and kept in vaults or private collections. Now, let's talk about the design. The 1894 dime features the Barber design, named after Charles E. Barber, the chief engraver of the U.S. Mint at the time. It was a simple yet elegant look that graced dimes, quarters, and half dollars from 1892 to 1916. The obverse of the coin shows the head of Liberty wearing a cap and laurel wreath, while the reverse has the denomination surrounded by a wreath. Even though Roosevelt's image wouldn't appear on the dime until decades later, the 1894 dime laid the foundation for what would become one of the most collected denominations in American history. So, how does a coin like this become so incredibly valuable? It's a perfect storm of factors: extremely low mintage, historical mystery, a captivating backstory, and very few surviving specimens. That combination turns a dime into a treasure worth far more than its weight in silver. Condition also plays a massive role. If a surviving 1894 dime is in pristine condition, especially those graded MS 65 or higher, it becomes a once-in-a-lifetime coin for collectors. It's important to note that this is not a coin you'll stumble upon in your spare change, your grandfather's coin jar, or even at a typical coin show. These are coins that appear once in a generation, often hidden away in private collections or high-end auctions that attract elite collectors from around the world. And when they do surface, they command attention and staggering prices. So, let's get to the question that everyone asks: what is it worth? Well, while a typical Roosevelt dime might get you a soda or a parking meter hour, a genuine 1894 dime in top-tier condition, with its rarity and backstory, is not just valuable, it's astonishing. One of these ultra-rare dimes has been known to sell for as much as $230,000. Yes, that's right, $230,000 for a coin no bigger than your fingernail. That's the magic of numismatics. What might look like an ordinary coin can carry a story filled with history, mystery, and immense value. The 1894 Roosevelt dime, or more accurately, the 1894 S. Barber dime, is a perfect example of how a single coin can capture the imagination of collectors for over a century. It's a symbol of rarity, a whisper from the past, and a shining gem in the crown of American coin collecting that if you're ever lucky enough to see one in person, or, in the rarest of dreams, hold one in your hand, just remember, you're not just looking at a piece of silver. You're holding a story, a mystery, and a legacy worth far more than its face value. A legacy that, in the right condition, could be worth $230,000. Top 4. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that's small enough to slip into your pocket, but carries with it the weight of history, legacy, and incredible value. That's the magic of coin collecting, and today, we're diving deep into one of the most talked about coins among collectors, the 1945 Roosevelt 1 dime. At first glance, it might seem like just another 10-cent piece, but once you understand its background, unique features, and its importance in American history, you'll see why this coin is anything but ordinary. To begin with, we need to clear up a bit of a historical detail. The Roosevelt dime, as we know it today, wasn't officially introduced until 1946. It was created to honor the late President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who passed away in April of 1945. His leadership during the Great Depression and World War II left a lasting impact on the nation, and the dime was chosen to carry his image, largely because of his association with the March of Dimes campaign to fight polio. So, when we talk about a 1945 Roosevelt dime, we're entering a unique space. It represents the final year of the Mercury dime design and the transition into the Roosevelt era. It's this turning point, this passing of the torch, that makes the 1945 dime especially fascinating. Though technically a Mercury dime, many collectors and enthusiasts associate the 1945 edition with Roosevelt's legacy, marking the end of an era and the beginning of a new one in American coinage. Now, what exactly makes the 1945 dime so valuable and interesting? One key element is the year itself. 1945 was a historic moment. World War II was coming to an end, the world was changing rapidly, and the United States was stepping into a new era of power and responsibility. That kind of global context adds depth to something as simple as a coin. These dimes weren't just currency, they were part of the fabric of daily American life during an extraordinary time. Another reason the 1945 dime is so collectible is its silver content. Dimes minted before 1965 were composed of 90% silver and 10% copper, giving them intrinsic value well beyond their face value. But silver alone doesn't make a coin rare. What really makes the 1945 dime stand out are the variations, mint marks, and most importantly, the errors, because that's where things get truly exciting. Let's talk about mint marks first. The 1945 dimes were minted in Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, marked with a D, and San Francisco, marked with an S. Of these, the San Francisco version, especially in higher grades, has become particularly sought after by collectors. But what sent the value of the 1945 dime into the stratosphere was the discovery of a rare error that only occurred at the San Francisco Mint, the infamous micro S variety. In this rare version, the S mint mark was punched with a smaller than usual die, making the S appear tiny compared to standard markings. At the time, it may have seemed like a minor production quirk, but over the years, collectors discovered just how few of these micro S dimes actually existed, creating a sudden surge in demand for these rare finds. Pair that error with a coin in excellent, uncirculated condition, and you're looking at a dime that collectors are willing to pay huge sums for. But it's not just the micro S that draws attention. Full bands or FB designation is another premium attribute in the coin world, particularly when it comes to Mercury dimes. The bands refer to the fasces, a bundle of rods with an axe blade, on the reverse side of the coin, symbolizing unity and strength. If all the horizontal bands on the fasces are fully visible and unbroken, the coin earns a full bands designation. That sharp detail tells collectors that the coin was struck with fresh dies and has remained in pristine condition, and that means serious value. The condition of any coin is critical in determining its value. Collectors use a scale from 1 to 70, with higher numbers representing better condition. Coins graded MS 65 and above are considered gem quality, and with the 1945 dime, such grades are not just rare, they're extraordinary. Imagine finding a 1945 dime with the micro S variety, a full band strike, and a mint state grade in the upper 60s. That combination is what dreams are made of in the world of numismatics, but why would someone pay so much for a single dime? Well, it's not just about the metal or the design. It's about owning a piece of history. The 1945 dime is a time capsule, a silent witness to one of the most transformative periods in American and world history. It tells a story, not only of a nation recovering from war, but of a people honoring a president who guided them through their darkest hours. That it's also about rarity and competition. Coin collectors are passionate, dedicated individuals, and the thrill of owning one of the few surviving examples of a rare coin is something truly special. In elite coin auctions, these collectors compete fiercely for such pieces. And when the bidding starts, the numbers climb quickly, especially for coins with perfect characteristics. So, how much could a 1945 Roosevelt 1 dime, particularly one with the right combination of rarity, error, and pristine condition, be worth today? While many circulated versions of this dime can be picked up for a few dollars, the high-end versions, those with the micro S mint mark, full band strike, and mint state grading, command massive sums. In fact, a particularly rare and perfect specimen of the 1945 dime has sold for as much as $160,000, yes, you heard that right, a 10-cent coin, worth $160,000 to the right collector. That's the incredible world of coin collecting. It's where history, rarity, and passion collide to turn something ordinary into something extraordinary. So next time you're looking through an old coin jar, pay attention. Because hidden among the copper and silver might be a small piece of metal that tells a big story, and maybe, just maybe, it could be worth a fortune. Top 5. In the world of coin collecting, there's something undeniably thrilling about discovering value in the most unexpected places. You don't need to search ancient ruins or crack open century-old treasure chests to find hidden wealth. Sometimes, it's sitting quietly in your pocket change. One of the most surprising examples of this is the United States of America Roosevelt 1 dime from 1980. At first glance, it looks like any other dime you'd casually spend on a vending machine soda, but behind its small size lies a fascinating story that has captured the attention of collectors nationwide. The Roosevelt dime has been a staple of U.S. coinage since 1946, when it replaced the Mercury dime. It was created to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who passed away the previous year and had been a key figure in leading the country through the Great Depression and World War II. Roosevelt was also personally affected by polio, and his connection to the March of Dimes health campaign made the choice of denomination a meaningful tribute. Ever since, his profile has graced the dime, with the reverse featuring a torch, an olive branch, and an oak branch, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength. By 1980, the Roosevelt dime was firmly embedded in American culture. It had been in circulation for over 3 decades, and millions were minted each year. But as is often the case in numismatics, not all coins are created equal. While the majority of 1980 dimes are worth no more than 10 cents, a select few, thanks to rare minting errors and impeccable preservation, have skyrocketed in value, earning a special place in the eyes of coin collectors and investors alike. Let's begin with the basics. The 1980 Roosevelt dime was minted in 3 different locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins from Philadelphia carry no mint mark, those from Denver are marked with a D, and San Francisco dimes have an S. While millions of dimes were produced at all 3 mints that year, not all of them are identical. A handful of dimes minted in 1980 exhibit unique characteristics that elevate them far above their everyday counterparts. One of the key elements that adds value to a 1980 dime is condition. In the world of coins, condition is king. A coin's grade, measured on a 70-point scale, tells collectors how well it has been preserved since the day it was struck. A dime that shows no signs of wear and has sharp, crisp details, particularly one that earns a mint state grade of MS 65 or higher, is already worth more than face value. But when that condition is paired with rare traits or minting errors, the value can soar dramatically. speaking of errors, this is where things get really interesting. Error coins are mistakes made during the minting process, and while mistakes in most industries are bad news, in numismatics, they're gold. Certain 1980 Roosevelt dimes have been discovered with striking anomalies, such as off-center strikes, double dies, and missing clad layers, each of which can dramatically increase the coin's rarity and desirability. One of the most talked about examples is the 1980 Roosevelt dime with a missing clad layer. Normally, modern dimes are made with a copper core and a clad outer layer of nickel. But in some rare instances, the nickel coating is absent, giving the coin a distinct copper appearance. If a 1980 dime with this error is also in pristine, uncirculated condition, it can command incredible prices at auction. Then there are coins with striking errors, where the coin was improperly aligned in the press or struck more than once, creating a visually dramatic and unmistakably unique appearance. These dimes are considered one of a kind and are especially prized by collectors who focus on error coins. Because these types of errors are almost always caught and destroyed by the mint before the coins leave the facility, the few that escape into circulation become instant collector's items. Another factor that significantly boosts a coin's value is proof quality. Proof coins are specially made for collectors, struck with highly polished dies and planchets to create an exceptional level of detail and a mirror-like finish. Some 1980s Roosevelt dimes were struck as proofs, and when kept in flawless condition, graded as PR 69 or PR 70, they become a highlight in any collection. These are not your everyday dimes, these are coins that were never meant to circulate, and those that remain in pristine state are exceedingly rare. But beyond mint marks, condition, and errors, there's something else that drives the demand for the 1980 Roosevelt dime: mystique. It's the allure of discovering something extraordinary in the ordinary. Imagine the excitement of flipping through a stack of dimes and realizing one of them is worth thousands, or even tens of thousands, of dollars. That's the kind of discovery that turns casual interest into a lifelong passion for collecting. Over the years, collectors have paid close attention to these seemingly modern coins, especially as more error examples have come to light and increased in value. Coin shows, auctions, and online marketplaces have all seen spikes in interest surrounding rare Roosevelt dimes, and the 1980 version is now among the most intriguing to watch. Its growing fame is a reminder that even relatively recent coins can become treasures when the right elements align. Now, let's get to the part you've been waiting for: the value. While most 1980 Roosevelt dimes are worth their face value or slightly more in circulated condition, the rarest and most pristine examples, those with errors, perfect mint states, or unique proof qualities, have shocked even veteran collectors with their price tags. One particularly rare specimen, featuring an extremely scarce error and a top-tier mint state grade, recently fetched a jaw-dropping price at auction. Yes, it's true, this humble 1980 Roosevelt 1 dime sold for a stunning $75,000. That's $75,000 for a single 10-cent coin. It's proof that sometimes the smallest objects can carry the greatest value, if you know what to look for. So the next time you receive change at the grocery store or clean out an old coin jar, take a closer look at those dimes. Among them, there could be a piece of history, a rare error, or a perfect gem hiding in plain sight. The 1980 Roosevelt dime might just be one of those coins, and it could be worth far more than you ever imagined.